Now, hello everybody and welcome to another video. I was a complete dummy. Today I had to completely reinstall Windows, which was kind of fun. I put it on SSD though, so it's been an interesting experience. However, in my stupidity, I forgot we still had part 3 of this, and I deleted the raw footage. So here I am now on Liss, recording literally today, at the end of the day, to do this with you guys so that we can actually complete the library tour. It's actually a good thing, if anything, that I'm re-recording this last part of the tour, because I can show you guys some stuff that the community's found since the patch has come out that I never knew about originally, right down here in the library. So that should be pretty cool. I left you off with a pretty sour tease. I'm so sorry about that. The Nightmare Harbinger, or Harbinger, to do with Malik. Oh yes, so we will jump straight in and see this book about this guy that hopefully I can explain to you guys exactly who he is if you're unaware. So this is Discussions with Amaranda the Lonesome, which resulted in this collection of thoughts and theories on Malik, a Sylvari who awakened beyond the Pale Tree. I've already said a couple of times on the tour, what is so cool about this is not necessarily that we get huge answers in the story. We can glean the odd thing here or there, but just that the devs sort of remember Malik and we are still worthwhile looking at him, right? So Amaranda in particular was a Sylvari NPC you would meet while you were doing the Sylvari personal story steps to do with Malik. Apparently she was a good friend of Traherne's and really very little else came of her. But she was very mystic. Supposedly she was a Sylvari that was even more in tune to the dream than many, if not all, of the Firstborn, which is kind of cool. I think maybe it was even her at the end that eventually gave you this really cryptic message that talked about lands unwaking and shores a long way away, and sort of harkened back to an old Guild Wars 1 mystery. Anyway, so Malik himself is a Sylvari that didn't seem to come from our Pale Tree. Let's read on. I made a prediction a couple of months ago before Season 2 came out that Season 2 would end with us finding another Pale Tree, and that would be perhaps where Malik originally came from. I don't know whether I should still stick to my guns on that theory since I have different ideas about where we'll end now, but we'll see. So anyway, let's read the book. As you all well know, all Sylvari, whether of Ventari's philosophy or of a nightmare bent, come from the Pale Tree. To consider that one who is so like us could come from elsewhere is humbling and confusing. We know that we are who we are because of Ronan and Ventari's care. So, where did Malik come from? I have many questions about this, and the questions you'll see that she asks, basically in a second, are what we, the community, have asked, and it's good that now we see this represented in-game because it means the devs know that we're asking those questions, and eventually they could answer those exact questions, if that makes sense. So, if he came from a different tree, then where did he get his knowledge of the world? Is there another dream out there somewhere? Why does he resemble humans as we resemble Ronan? That last question there is particularly interesting because the Sylvari could have taken any form, but there are only theories thrown around, but one of the strongest theories is that because the tree was planted atop the graves of Ronan's family, and I guess to an extent Ronan himself after he passed, the Sylvari, the Pale Tree, ended up emulating that. So why would Malik from a totally different tree also appear humanoid? There's the idea of there being a Pale Tree in the Echo-Vowed Forest that gave birth to the Wardens, who are very, very Sylvari-like. Even many Sylvari call themselves Wardens. And those guys were pretty humanoids too. So, it's interesting. We'll read on. Why does he not know his own mother? Surely, if there were another tree, he would remember her. And why do the Nightmare Court call him their Harbinger? A Harbinger is an omen. But is it good or evil? I think we can already sort of answer this first question. Why doesn't he know his mother? Because yes, he's from another tree, but he was also separated from that other tree as he was developing, and his pod ended up washing down the river. That's when we met him. He really served as a moral, neutral ground, and this is because he had no dream. He was cut off from his dream very early. That's why he wouldn't know his mother, as far as I know anyway. Malik is no one, she concludes. He comes from nowhere. On one hand, I am sorry for him. He has no roots. On the other, I am envious. He can become whatever he chooses. I hope he chooses well. And we'll put the book back. So as I say, nothing massive came from that. One of you guys left a comment saying, oh, this changed my perspective on everything. I'm not quite sure how. Maybe you could fill me in on that. But yeah, so 3 at the end, kind of all to do with Sylvari stuff, tend to be very interesting. It's funny, actually, after I did the original tour, which I'm now re-recording, I could have sworn that I missed a book somewhere, a book talking about the centaurs, and in particular there was a book that named the as yet unnamed centaur tribe that lived in the Crystal Desert, which was awesome. They're called like the Lorshad Raiders or something. It was like a totally new name for this tribe that had been nameless for so long, and I was super happy about it. But we never ended up doing it on the original tour, and I can't find it here today for you guys either. But whatever. So what were we doing? We were moving counterclockwise around the prairie, right? Well, that's that huge section there complete now. Very exciting, cool section there. Sorry, I just realized I had fraps on this entire time to monitor my FPS. I've turned that off now. So let's move around here now. Got a couple more scholars. Let's chat with them.
No, I'm not done with this section. Move along.
Hey, you don't have to be a... Yeah, you shush him. You don't have to be a douche about it, man. I really wanted to read that book back there that we clearly can't interact with. And a giant Norn. You just know this guy's gonna shout straight away.
Greetings. Where do you... Oh, right.
Yeah, he caught himself. He remembered just in time before the wrath of that woman in the middle ended up shushing him down. Alright, so what books have we got here? We've got this one here called No Mower. Someone said this was their favourite book to me. I don't know. It's kind of a nice book. This children's book by Pitney tells the hilarious tale of a mower who constantly gets into trouble and the exasperated farmer who takes care of him. So, Pitney was a farmer we met in pre-Searing Ascalon. One of the very earliest quests that you could do in all of Guild Wars involved finding this guy's mower that had ran into the catacombs below. And I can't quite remember how it ended. I know I've got a Let's Play video of me actually doing it out there somewhere. I think either we saved the mower or it ended up dying and we had to kill it as an undead. I can't remember which. Anyway, so this is a children's book by Pitney after those events. Let's turn the page. When the mower wandered out of its pen, the farmer shouted, "No mower!" But the bird didn't listen. The farmer followed and shouted, "No mower!" as the bird nearly ran afoul of a hungry char. The farmer yelled, "No mower!" when it ran into the catacombs to escape the char. The farmer reluctantly went in after the mower, knees knocking, and said, "Yes, mower," as the bird ran to him, its knees knocking too. Ah, it's so sweet. Find another book. So yeah, that's a bit of nice reading. I described that as grey literature, I believe, before. Wallows, the definitive defense. This is pretty cool. So this is written by Dummel Gorhoff. And this book defends the usefulness of one of the many strange creatures found in Cantha. These are the rot wallows, or I guess just wallows. They were weird-looking creatures that actually were your enemies. They were just wildlife, wild animals that would fight you in the first game while we were in Cantha specifically. But also, once you had befriended the Kurziks, you could actually get a couple of these things as henchmen to fight alongside of you, domesticated ones. And so this is this guy's Kurzik viewpoint of them, why we shouldn't just mindlessly kill them and hunt them down. The chubby grey creature known as the Wallow is a perfect example of an animal for which people should have the utmost respect. Wallows love to eat truffles and can be domesticated to help you find the luxurious and expensive ingredient. There's this whole thing about finding truffles in the previous game in the forest. Some hunters kill them for their tusks and the truffles they are digesting instead of taming the useful beasts. Because of this, dozens of hunters are knocked down and killed by wallows every year. Respect, as opposed to assault, would save lives, close book. And I think he makes a very definitive defense right there. Ah, man, I love the rot wallows. It'd be so cool if we can have some interaction with them once again when we get to go to Cantha, though I'm not sure what. I think just making them ranger pets would be a bit lame, but maybe it would be cool enough. Anyway, so, oh, we already spoke to this story, and what am I about to do? So let's look at the black mower here. Some more stuff about wildlife here, particularly in Cantha. So this book by Gw2 describes a carnivorous bird that is feared, respected, and legendary among the Kurziks. It's funny, actually, because the black mower is not such a big deal now 250 years later, but in the previous game, when factions first came out especially, there was this whole quest about this black mower, this mysterious black mower that everyone thought was this evil omen, right? And everyone thought it was attacking them and it was the murderous, terrible thing. And we eventually tried to hunt it down. Gw2 was one of the prominent NPCs involved in that quest. So, his description of the mower is, "It all began when I was put out on patrol, keeping my eyes peeled for Luxon scouts," the Luxons being like the faction of people that the Kurziks of the forest hated. "My ears filled with the shrill cries of a beast. I chased the black mower. It was evil. I had heard that it eats other animals. Only heard, not seen. I now believe it eats people as well." Jump into conclusions here. "I nearly caught it, but it thrashed and scratched. It squawked and screamed. When it ran, I tried to track it, but it is fast and ferocious." And And then we stop reading. So that was his personal account of an encounter with a black mer. Pretty cool. And over here, Flora to Fawn over. This book, as well as being very difficult to actually interact with, is, in my opinion, one of the more boring books in the library, but also one of the best for a very specific reason, and I'll show you guys that in a second. So this book by scholar Elaine goes into meticulous detail about the various species of plants found in Kryta. Wild herbs can be found throughout Kryta. Thyme, parsley, tarragon, and other leafy greens can be found in natural patches. Other edibles, such as strawberries, can be cultivated easily, but thrive mostly on farms and not in nature. Once you learn the plants of Kryta, and can tell oregano from sage, the world is more engaging and less of a surprise. This is literally just talking about, especially if you do gathering, right? It's just talking about plants, and yeah, there's nothing that amazingly interesting there, but it's these kinds of books, I feel, that give you just that little bit of detail, that little bit of expertise from some character and some small random thing that make the whole world feel like it has a lot more depth and realism to it. This kind of grey literature, you know, just kind of bland, scholarly looks at even mundane things, actually really heightens my realism of the world. It's one of those things that I think, like the Elder Scrolls does very well with their books. I've always thought that with Guild Wars 2 it'd be amazing if we had real books we could read, or a proper graphical interface for it, and books that had a lot more information in them. Like, it's a well-known fact, or it should be by now, that the Black Lion trading post, this is literally just pulling up a website, okay? And there have been glitches since they redid the trading post where people show, hey look, I'm just browsing other web pages because of some bug with my trading post. And it's just a fact that they already have the technology in the game to show interesting graphics and images through in Windows, and I wish they would just do something like that for proper books. It would be fantastic. They could really bring this franchise on par, and then just have tons of books, even about stuff like this, you know, even about Flora to Fawn over, just because it gives you that little bit more depth that I think would go a really, really long way. Alright, so anyway, that's that one done. Here we've got a bust. This thing people have speculated on for a long time what it's supposed to be, so I love that they actually put it in here. And the response we get is, wow, that is just one ugly, I'm not sure what it is. Will it ever mean anything one day? Who knows? So if we move around just here, well, we haven't read those just yet. Alright, okay, we'll do some cool, like, Easter eggy type stuff here. So this is where the story wants us to go. When I originally did the tour, I didn't want to spoil stuff for you guys, and I'll stick with that here. But here, we've got a masterwork painting, and the description says that this looks like an original Jun. Look at how the colors explode from the canvas. Really cool thing here, Jun was a Kurzik painter that you met in the first game. Now, you never really saw any of her paintings, but she said, hey, I'm a painter. She also happened to be the sister of a woman you, the player character, went to school with, basically, went to Xingji Monastery with. So if you were from factions, if that's where your character was born, you went to Xingji Monastery, you grew up with a bunch of other students there, and this was the sister of one of those students. Really, really cool to see those little details there. Here's an ornate clock. The magical energy radiating from this clock is enough to make the hairs stand up on your arms. The craftsmanship that went into it is inspiring and beautiful. Kind of cool, I like about this clock, because this is this is a big warehouse for loads of magical things, right? And this is just outright super magical. Here we've got a scholar.
Go away.
And a bit of an old move. Thank you very much, lady. We'll move in. Now you get tons and tons and tons of crates. And you will notice on many of these crates there seems to be words. Now some of these are numbers. People have speculated with me maybe that they were dates for various places. I don't think that they're dates marking, you know, special moments in the story, upcoming or anything. I just think they're meant to mark crates. This here comes up a lot, and it actually says live contents. So there's a lot of crates around here that supposedly have live content. I spent so long climbing around on these crates when it first came in, and then I'd look at something like this and I'd be like, oh, does that say something else? Spend ages translating it, only to realize that I'm translating the same damn thing again, live contents. Here's that giant block of jade that I believe I've already mentioned in one of the previous tour episodes, and it's got a worm inside it. Nothing particularly special. In the deep elite mission, raid style mission from Guild Wars 1, there was a very specific moment where a giant worm would break out of some ice, a little bit like this. Jade, a little bit like this. And mostly they just say live contents with maybe a slight difference. There is a very specific one though, hidden right back here behind the archivist. If you jump up on these crates, over here, over these crates as well, you find this crate. Now, on this is written in New Crichton something different, and I can't translate it directly for you guys here. It's got the Dermot Priory symbol on it, but it says, basically, do not touch. This is important content belonging to the Priory. The way that it's worded is a direct reference to Indiana Jones, where I think the Ark of the Covenant is eventually stashed away in the warehouse. But this crate, as you'll notice, is slightly open, and by looking inside, you'll actually see there's an object in there. This object is something we saw in the franchise long ago. Back during Prophecies, imagine having quests in Guild Wars 2 that when you complete these very special quests, they give you a bunch more trait points, okay? Kind of similar kind of deal back in Guild Wars 1. Anyway, there were some very special quests that were in the game and ultimately went unfinished, where we were supposed to blow up a giant statue in the Crystal Desert. And this involved us carrying a big thing called the Ancient Weapon, some like ancient force of destruction from the previous game. Just kind of a random quest, interesting idea, definitely not something I would have expected ArenaNet to reference again. And here, this is the Ancient Weapon here, this random thing from Guild Wars 1 in one of these kind of significant-ish quests, and there it is. I mean, this was really, really cool to see. The Dermot Priory have somehow got their hands on it, and they have it hidden away. And here we've got some extra markings and so forth on this wall. People have been finding some crazy stuff in this patch. If you break out of the new map, hidden out there, you can find an image that kind of references the rites of ascension and the symbols. It's just nuts. The amount of small references that they managed to put in here, to just cram in, are incredible. And this is why I think the patch has gone down so well with so many people. Someone else mentioned to me as well that a lot of the paintings in the library are supposedly Guild Wars 1 loading screens. Cool idea, but I think that that's used quite a lot in the franchise anyway. But yeah, we do have one last little section of books, which I would love to show you guys. But before we do that, there are still 2 more Easter eggs to check out here. I'll save one for last one. Many of you guys are expecting. But one of the cool Easter eggs is related to right here at the start. And you might think that I'm about to do /dance right now, but I'm not. As you very first load into the instance, if you look very quickly in front of you, there appears to be some kind of ghost structure here, exactly where I'm currently stood, that we can walk through. What is this ghost structure? Why is it here? Well, I can only shed light on a little bit of that, but you can reveal it by using specific abilities that have a lot of particle effects. So, as an elementalist, Swirling Winds is really useful. If I pop it here, you'll see there seems to be something here, like pillars that are just slightly showing up in the area. What you're actually looking at there is one of the teleport pads that again existed out in the Crystal Desert. So there's so many references to the Crystal Desert in this patch, it's unreal, beyond even what happens in the core, the main story, right? So why is this here? Why is one of these Crystal Desert teleport pads available right here? Is this going to activate in a later patch that just suddenly moves us to the Crystal Desert? Who knows? But that's definitely what we're looking at, just scaled down a little bit. For those of you unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, back in the last game, you had the Crystal Desert. It was a giant region you could explore, and to aid in moving vast distances across the desert, you would find these structures that had been built by the Forgotten. They looked very kind of ancient Egyptian pyramid-y style structures, and you would play a little mini game at them to activate them. You'd walk through and they'd teleport you somewhere else. And now we see one of those teleport pads here in the Dermot Priory. Interesting. I mean, is that going to activate in a later patch? Who knows? One more Easter egg to show, which I'll end the video with. But let's do this last little section of these books here. And these books are great. I really regret that I lost my footage and commentary from the first time reading through these. I feel like it's never going to be as good. But here we go. Destiny Set in Stone, The Last Days of the Dwarves. This book by Ogden Stonehealer, who we're looking for in the story right now, describes the events of 1078 AE that caused the transformation of the dwarves. So this is talking about the end of Guild Wars 1 storylines, the story in Eye of the North, when we had the Great Destroyer versus the Great Dwarf, basically. So this is Ogden talking about what we did as a hero in the first game. Let's see how fondly he remembers us. He says very plainly that the dwarves are not really gone. They are living weapons, no less real than the hammer of the great dwarf that created them. This hammer, wielded by King Jarlis Ironhammer, was the magical catalyst. It caused the success of the Rite of the Great Dwarf. The Rite connected all dwarves' minds so that they could be stronger together. They became one great dwarf instead of many weak ones. I think one of the coolest things, at least to me, that this franchise did, when you compare it to other fantasy works, is their whole idea, especially now of the way dwarves work. It is kind of a unique idea in Guild Wars, in Tyria, to have, okay, let's take this very traditional fantasy race, the dwarf thing, and now let's combine it with some kind of like a hive mind subject material. It's kind of cool. Kind of an interesting twist you don't see many other places. And then Ogden finishes by saying, this collective consciousness, along with some Asura, humans, and stubborn Norn, that's us, by the way, put the Great Destroyer to rest. Very simple, I guess, but there you go. Ogden's become a man of few words in the many years he's been alive now. So here, let's read a bit more about Jarlis, the king of the dwarves. Ogden, once again, is the author here. He delivers possibly a premature eulogy to King Jarlis Ironhammer, last and greatest king of Gw2. Possibly premature, of course, because he could still be out there fighting. We may still meet this guy yet. Never before and never again will there be such a ruler as King Jarlis Ironhammer. Steadfast and mighty, he inspired love from the dwarves and loved them in return. Black was the day when Jarlis' eyes went firm as iron. He'd made the decision that it was time. The time of the Rubicon had predicted it. The Gw2 dwarves would make the ultimate sacrifice. Jarlis never once hesitated. He stood at the fore with his subjects around him, and he performed the ritual known as the Rites of the Great Dwarf. It turned us to stone so that we could fight the Great Destroyer on even terms. The last time I saw my king, he was leading a charge into the depths of Tyria, into a nest of Primordus' destroyers. It's really kind of interesting idea that the ultimate thing to counter Primordus is to turn yourself to stone, since he seems to create destroyers from lava and stone. It's kind of funny, you know, like, but I guess on a very basic level, hey, it's hard to set fire to rock, so I guess that's maybe what they were going for originally. Cool as well. I like that one because it shows a little bit behind the curtains of, you know, Jarlis actually making this huge decision for the dwarven people that, yes, we were present for in the first game, but we never really got to see kind of the emotional side of that, which that book goes into a bit more. Last scholar?
A person could live down here, you know? So many glorious books.
Oh, so many glorious books. Oh my god, I turned my subwoofer on for the first time in years earlier today, and now I'm hearing like all this bass and everything, and it makes the game sound so much more cinematic. It's unreal. Okay, so we got that. The Natural War is another book a little bit like that one with the plants before. This book by Ercus describes the history of weaponry in Tyria and how it has been shaped by the availability of natural resources. Most interesting, though, I believe, is how this gives us an insight into Gw2 culture. But here, so almost nothing is known about ancient weapon use on Tyria. The great giants, Giganticus, Lupicus perhaps, are theorized to have fought mostly with huge claws and feet. Gw2 and dwarves were the inventors of modern weaponry. Rocks, metals, and trees of the Shiver Peaks became battle equipment in 10,000 BE. That's a long time ago. Very cool, though. I mean, if you think about the other races back then, they were more spellcaster influenced, I suppose. But yeah, really, really cool, especially to see the Gw2 listed up there as these great inventors once again. Weapons changed when humans and Char acquired them in Ascalon because lush lands led to better wood for bows, shields, and torches. I like how this also kind of skips out. You could have another page that says, and once again, dwarves were pretty awesome once again by giving us firearms, right? Or paving the way for firearms with gunpowder use and stuff like that. But anyway, find something else to read. That was the Natural War. Over here we've got Riding the Wind, the Tengu Exodus. So, oh, and a plant next to it, which is the rare Forbidium consecrata plant. These were thought to have died out ages ago. It must be magically preserved. I'm sure this is a reference to something, maybe an Alona quest. I really can't remember though anymore. But yeah, so we got the Tengu Exodus as well. So the Tengu, they're a race. They have been hiding in the Dominion of Winds for God knows how long now. This is by Genzao Talonrend, and it tells of the Tengu population migrations over the years. He says that Tengu have always built perches to watch the world turn, but sometimes we are pushed off in great gusts. My people had to flee the home we had made for millennia in Cantha when the Ministry of Purity blew us north to Tyria. Notice how he says that Cantha isn't their original home necessarily, it's just where they had made roost for millennia perhaps. When the Great Tsunami hit, we built our dominion on Sanctum K to defend against Zaitan's minions. That idea of the Ministry of Purity I should mention as well. Basically the last ever content that was added to Guild Wars 1, basically Guild Wars 1's version of the Living World, was dealing with the Ministry of Purity, and it's actually really, really cool. And then the Great Tsunami, this was when all rose. I like how he's talking about this as being Sanctum K, because Sanctum K was the name of the island that exists out, so we'll have a look at the world map here for you guys. This island here, that is surrounded by the wall, this is Sanctum K, and this is what we knew it as before. But now, of course, it's just the Dominion of Winds, and the Tengu have made it their own, and it's a different place entirely feeling. Kind of cool to see just the word Sanctum K there once again. I don't know if I've ever seen them written in Guild Wars 2, at least before. Now we see the world ripped by dragon's teeth and send a message of survival to all the races. We believe in taking flight. Everyone has assumed for so long that the Tengu will become a playable race and ally with us eventually. I kind of like the idea, though, and this book sets up a little bit there, though. The Tengu are the Masat for us. You know, the Masat were the race that fled before. That seems like the Tengu stance right now, to flee. And I know that the Masat eventually became evil in our eyes for this reason or that. But just the idea of running from the Elder Dragons instead of fighting. Is there anything so wrong with that? So we got 2 more books. This one on the table is Zaitan's Last Flight. And this detailed account of the final fight with the Elder Dragon Zaitan includes a list of all Pact members who were killed. The feat of Liss is called out as having been critical to the victory. I think they kind of missed an opportunity here. This would have been kind of cool for them to have told an alternate perspective of the end of the personal story. Maybe confirmed the odd thing here or there, like the fact that Zaitan really died, right? Even basic things. But they just kind of use it as a position to say, hey, you were the hero, good job, because our community so desperately needs to have its ego rubbed, so it would seem. And lastly, the final book, Dragons and Gods. And I love this one, I'm sorry, I love this one. A scholarly argument for the symmetry between elder dragons and the human gods. Unfortunately, by the end, it is clear that no proof exists to support this theory. My god, the #1 by a long, long, long way thing that people have always given me messages about and talked about and speculated about is the idea, are the gods and the elder dragons the same, desperately trying to pair them up? And I've always said, I'm sorry, I've always said you cannot pair them up. It always falls apart somewhere, as enticing as it looks. And this was so awesome for me to see. Someone in Tyria believes this too. Thank you so much. Ah, brilliant. So there you go, guys. That's pretty much all of the books. Unfortunately, I do feel like I maybe missed 1 or 2. As we come around the center here, none of the scholars really have anything to say to us.
Can't you see I'm busy?
You know, they're just angry. They're going to tell us to be quiet.
Sorry, I can't help you. I'm not the archivist.
Yeah, I know you're not the archivist. That's fine. And as we move around, you guys who have played the story will know what happens here.
The archivist is on duty. I can't help you.
You can startle this Asura here.
Oh, you startled me.
Oh, I'm so startled. Shh. And that guy won't talk to me at all. He just shakes his head. As we come into the very middle, you get this cool symbol here. And, of course, more symbols here surrounding it. These keys. These are actually the icons of the Dermond Priory itself. Beneath the all above us. Very, very, very cool. So, I guess we'll end the video there, guys. I do want to show you one final little Easter egg. It's to do with the statue of Abaddon. I have never done this before now. I've just heard about it a lot. Had a million messages about it. So, we're going to do this here. Now, in Gw2 1, when you actually got to fight Abaddon himself, when you were right there at the edge of hell, it was all terrible and dark and miserable and depressing, and you were in your last fight. At this point, if you as a player typed /dance, Abaddon would dance back, it would wipe your entire party, and you'd get a message that says you got served. Apparently, we can dance to this Abaddon in this game too, as once again, the cool little Easter egg, another little reference to Gw2 1. Unless it doesn't work. Oh, it did work. He didn't bow. I was told he was going to bow. Okay. Amazing. So you just randomly die. That's fantastic. Damage taken. This is busting out some sweet, sweet dance moves. Apparently we didn't take any damage. We just got killed. That is cool though, right? Jesus. Well, there you go, guys. Thank you very much for watching the tour of the library. There is still plenty more lore and stuff to talk about. I will be doing a full-on summary of the story where I predict it might be going in the future. A friend told me a very cool idea today, and we'll run into that in the future. But thanks, guys. Hope you learned something interesting. It's been my pleasure. I'll see you next time.